And we're back live in the studio here this morning at the Viewpoint. And our guest this morning is Father Mark Evans at Trinity Episcopal Church. And the co-host is the lovely Cass Busby, the daughter of our prime host on Viewpoint, Judith K. Busby. We were talking about the matter of church attendance and so forth. This being coming up the new year, I'm sure Father Mark and every priest and minister and rabbi in existence would want that their parishioners and congregational members and so forth would make the resolution to be a better church attendee. The established, quote, the mainline, quote, religions have experienced or are experiencing a decline in attendance. That seems to be a phenomenon not related just to our church, Father, but across the board. What would be a motivating factor or reasoning in that? Do you have an if you had an answer for that, he wouldn't be sitting here talking with us. He'd be
pounding the pavement.
Pounding the pavement, right?
I'd be selling books and retired on my island in the Caribbean at this point.
Right.
It is a large question. There are lots and lots of answers, and people make stabs at it. But as we said, if we'd had it figured out, somebody would have done it earlier than we have, and it would be well past the problem. I think a lot of it, though, has to do with how the mainline denominations, and I'm speaking here of Episcopalians and Lutherans and Methodists and
don't forget Presbyterians.
Presbyterians too, yes. How can we forget the Presbyterians? As a group, the idea of any one of those members going out and talking to the neighbor about their relationship with Jesus Christ probably scares the willies out of 99% of them.
Yeah. So-called evangelism.
So-called evangelism, which we do evangelism all the time. I remember when I was in seminary, a classmate of mine got a new Mac laptop. And he was extolling the virtues of this Mac to anyone and everyone that he ran across. And my quip was, and who says Episcopalians don't know how to do evangelism? It's just that it was about a Mac laptop rather than Jesus Christ. So we do evangelism all the time. We talk to our friends and neighbors about restaurants that we like to go to, or books that we like to read, or events that we want to see things happen. So, why do we find it so difficult to talk about our relationship with Jesus Christ? And part of it is because we've been trained to believe that that's a private issue. And part of it is we don't want to be pushy. The 11th commandment in the Episcopal Church is thou shalt not be tacky. So we don't want to be tacky. We don't want to be pushy. But
well,
that would help.
Don't discuss religion or politics, right?
But what are we doing this morning? We're talking about religion and politics, which is a good thing. So part of it is just our mindset, I think, that we don't know. And we have another guest that's joined the group this morning.
That's just a neighborhood cat. Just happened to just drove in for a good old sermon.
So part of it, I think, is in the mainline religions, what you asked about, is we have this reticence, shall we say, for a variety of reasons, to talk about what this means to us. Other churches have found that that's the core part of what they do, is to do evangelism, and sometimes they go overboard, and it's not a true relationship with Jesus Christ; it's a true relationship with that church. So, can we find a happy medium somehow? Would be my take on it.
Well, I think that's certainly a valid take. Each church had a different manner in which they worship our God. Goodbye, George. Come back sometime when you get around to it, will you? Yeah. That was the neighborhood cat just going out the door. But we all have a common goal and a common purpose in our worship forms. There is another group which are, I don't know how to express this, but they're not, quote, mainline, more fundamentalist, and I'm not sure of the definition of that. There seems to be a greater growth in that area, and I find that refreshing that they can reach out and touch people and do a good job of work in their community. And there's something there that seems to be working, and I'd like to see the mainline churches be able to tap into that kind of energy, but that doesn't happen. I think we're, as the expression goes, the Dutch, we're sot in our ways, and are a little bit reluctant to say, boy, I wish you'd come to church with me someday. So, where are you going to go with that? The fact that people are not going to church in numbers that they were, and that's just across the board here in the whole country, it speaks to a decline, and I'm not sure how to put a stop on that decline, because if it hits the bottom, it'll start back up.
I was not a churchgoer for a long time after college. There was a period of 6 or 7 years where I didn't set foot inside a church unless it was for a wedding or a funeral.
Yeah, not uncommon.
Not uncommon. When I went back to church, I found out that I had been missing something, and for different people, that something is, different emphases for different people. But people who have never been to church in the first place don't know that they're not getting everything, that they're not getting everything that's helpful to them. And that could be part of the evangelism, is you don't have to necessarily refute every single atheist argument in the world in a 5-minute conversation. All you really need to do is tell someone why it's important that you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and how to help them get a relationship too. And that's evangelism. It's not elaborate, it's just talking with people and sharing. I remember a little pithy story. Somebody was talking about, well, they weren't very good at evangelism because they hadn't convinced anyone to believe in Jesus Christ. And the other person said, well, maybe you're the second or the 40th person in the long step that person is doing a journey on to make that transition. So maybe, you don't have to be the beginning and the end of the whole spiritual journey that someone starts on. You just have to be part of help them make the next move forward along the way. So if you're step number 2 or step number 40, it's all important.
Well, I was raised Lutheran, and
so was I.
And my mother made sure that we went to church and Sunday school, and that we were baptized and confirmed, and it was very important to her. I moved out of state and was married and got a divorce and moved back home and started going to my family church again. And there was something always missing for me personally, just for me there. And I went on a long hunt through Lincoln, Illinois, to several churches. My son will
drag him along?
Yeah, I drug him to every church in this town. And I found the First Presbyterian Church. And that is my church family, and I was very excited to find that church. And I think we don't treat it like a marketing effort. I went in and I sat and I listened to sermons until I found something that spoke and nourished my soul. And when I wasn't just a bench warmer at a church sitting in a pew, and became an active member, and that I was getting meaning from the sermons and things, that's when I was able to tell people about come to my church. And I converted my mother and my sister to be Presbyterians, and my mother has been a Lutheran forever and a day. And she's very grateful for our church family, and especially lately. You know, any time the chips are down, that's the first place we call is our minister to come and say a prayer. And it's been that way in our family, and we need that stability, that rock for our own personal growth in our family. So I would suggest to anybody for a New Year's resolution to go out, and if you're not content with your life or what's going on in it, find a church. It's not that it's going to make your life 100% better or anything, or that you're going to win the lottery after doing that, but it will allow you to accept what you have and understand more, I think.
Flag that tape, will you? Father might want to use part of that for a sermon subject. Your mom may be very proud of you, my dear, for that. You know.
Well, it is Bring Your Kid to Work Day.
Yeah.
I hope you all did that after Christmas.
Well, you know, seriously, it doesn't take a pundit to realize that a part of this church attendance is kind of tied in with the socio-economic problems we have today. We have one-parent families. We have that parent working, struggling to make it work for she and or he and their children, if any. And Sunday is a time that they can kind of relax, and so they don't go to church. It's an easy thing to roll over and catch another 40 winks.
Right.
You have to be tuned to go to church and get what you obviously have been and are getting from your church, which is a neat thing.
Well, you just need to find that, you know, just like if you're a coffee drinker and you try different coffees, you want to find the one that fits you best, or the bed that fits you right, or a chair that fits you right. I found I needed a very forgiving God, and I found one at the First Presbyterian Church, so I was just lucky there.
I'm going to force my children to listen to this, Cass.
But I think we've pushed God out of so many places, and it's become kind of like smoking, you know. Smoking isn't an acceptable thing, and now it's not acceptable to talk about God. It's not acceptable to pray in our schools. It's not acceptable to discuss God we were talking about taking it off of our monetary system. We were talking about taking it down out of our legal system. You know, once you start removing God from church and state and schools and from the public eye, shame on us. What comes to it? Sandy Hook?
You better bring her into our church for a little a guest sermon there, Padre. That's pretty well. As a matter of fact, you hit upon one of the things that really is a big bug of my existence, and that is this overstepping political correctness.
Oh my
You're
goodness!
Scared to death.
It makes me throw up just a little bit in my mouth when people say that word.
Political correctness is
nasty,
ridiculous. It's just
it's gone too far.
Way, way, way too far.
Sometimes you can have too much of a good thing. I know, because I had it. I ate way too much all season.
Well, to that end, I note that the folks over in Holland, the Dutch, have said enough of this obsequiousness to the Muslim folks over there. And let's understand now that they're in the Muslim faith, just like in the Presbyterians, and maybe even in our church, there are some good people, some very good people. But we are so concerned about offending somebody that it's become ridiculous. Holland has said enough of this. They had Europe has had a huge inflection of Muslims, many good, but look at the troubles we have with those who are wearing the towel heads. And again, for fear that we're going to offend somebody, we don't do anything about it. Australia has also taken attack enough is enough. They're going to take their country back and quit making their laws that would yield to those that really don't count.
You know, Bill, I just really
silence
can't. I'm speechless because political correctness just has gone too far. You know, when we schools that have attempted to pray before football games or do it before sporting events, and then are chastised for it, and oh my gosh, they can't do that. That's totally against the rules. And I applaud those schools that stand up and say, it's none of your business. If we want to pray, or if I can have a group that can do worship in the school in this area, then I can also have the Christians do worship also. You know, we've got to make it fair across the board. You can't ostracize any of the groups, you know, period. But I think that there's also profiling that is a very important part of our government that needs to be done.
Oh, there's no question about that. I don't think the Episcopalians are profiled, are we, Father?
There aren't enough of us to worry about, Bill.
Yeah.
Only in airports.
Yes. Well, this business of overreaching, for instance, the Dutch government said the government shares a social dissatisfaction over the multicultural society model and plans to shift priorities to the values of the Dutch people. Why couldn't we do that right here in the United States of America?
That's not politically correct. Don't say that.
Well, I rest my point. I don't know where this is going, but unfortunately, I'll be out of here before they solve it.
Well, I think it's going in the wrong direction. I think when we start turning our back on the one that did it all for us, that we're just begging.
Well, for instance, why do we let the ACLU tell us about you can't pray at at any public function that has a school associated with? It's ridiculous. So, Father, do you have a comment about the ACLU as we sign off?
maybe a more general comment. I have heard people say that there is a separation between church and state in this country, and therefore that explains why the church is not involved in state functions. I would say that there's a modification to that the First Amendment separates church and state only said that the government can't dictate or can't have one religion or denomination above another, that all of them are equal. It did not say that the religion had to stay out of government. In fact, all of our founders used religious arguments for many of their tenets to the Constitution and to the Declaration of Independence. So on a personal basis or on a communal basis, both religion and religious beliefs do have a major component and a good component to our political discourse. As I said, the only separation is that the state can't do anything from their perspective, but we can use all of our religious background and thoughts towards our feelings about the state.
We really appreciate your presence here, Father Mark Evans of Trinity Episcopal Church, and Cass Busby, the daughter of our co-host Judy. Great job, my dear. We're glad to have you with us. You and your sister can substitute for your mom any day, as long as Mr. Ash approves. He's the final approval on this thing, you know.
Well, he was extremely nervous. I do want to tell you that. I spoke to him prior to this, and he was nervous.
No, I knew you.
He whimpered only twice, though, just two times. That was it.
He knew you had Judy's blood. That's fine. That was enough for him. We always try to close Viewpoint with a quote of the day. This one happens to be about religion, and this was by old Frederick the Great. You remember him?
Yes. My best friend.
All religion. Seriously, all religions must be tolerated. All religions must be tolerated, for every man must get to heaven in his own way. Thank you for Viewpoint.